Okay, and we are now live, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Plan RVA or RRTPO Vision Zero Work Group meeting. Again, welcome to all of our members and our consultant team that's helping us work through our regional action plan. So let's get started. I think the statement regarding the virtual meetings was held in our packets, so we should be good on that. And so, Nicole, if you do the attendance by roll call and to certify the quorum, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. I'll start with Town of Ashland, Ms. Amos. Chesterfield County, Ms. Smith.
Here.
Goochland County, Mr. Coleman. Henrico County, Vice Chair Smidler.
Here.
City of Richmond, Chair Clark.
Here.
And VDOT, Mr. Herman. I think he's with us. Thank you. That concludes the roll call for attendance. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Awesome. So now we'll move on to item 1, consideration of amendments to the agenda. Are there any? Today's agenda, no amendments being heard. We'll move on for approval of the May 13th Vision Zero Work Group meeting summary minutes. Are we going to take a roll call or just consensus, Nicole?
If you want to ask for a motion, that will work, and just consensus works.
Sure. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Sharon Smidler, motion to approve the May 13th, 2021 Vision Zero Work Group meeting minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Awesome. Motion approved. We will now have our open public comment period. Are there any citizens on that would like to comment, or have they commented via online or email?
We don't have anyone on the call this morning, and I have not received anything prior to today's meeting.
Okay, awesome. So now we'll go ahead and move into item 4, the chair's report. And again, I don't have much, just thank you everybody for attending and looking forward to seeing what VDOT and VHB have done over the last couple of months, I think it's been. And so with that, we can go right into item 5, the regional action plan. And I don't know if Ryan, I'm not sure who's going to be presenting, but I will turn it over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Eric Tang of VHB.
Eric.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I missed y'all last time, 2 months ago. My baby was 3 days old, so so I'm glad to see you guys finally on Zoom here. And yeah, we're really happy to present the update to how we've progressed with our data analysis and how it's building up to a final report that summarizes the patterns and issues identified through our efforts. So with that, I'm going to share my screen with the slide deck. You might have saw that when you first logged on. All right. And I know that Chet will be joining us soon. I think he's been pulled into a discussion with the chair of the TPO. So, all right. So yeah, we're going to present to you highlights because honestly, with 9 localities, you can slice and dice the data in so many different ways. And with only an hour, we can't show you everything. and nor it'll be a lot to show. And we also want to make sure that we have the information that is relevant and of interest to you, so that if there are certain analyses you like to see that that you'd like for us to perform as we compile the final report, we want to make sure we do those, conduct those analyses. So these analyses that we've conducted over the past couple of months have revolved around identifying or focusing on the emphasis areas of interest for the region. We want to provide an update on the pedestrian bicyclist considerations. From what I understand from the last meeting, there was interest in providing some more detail on how we can outline the various corridors specific for a locality, even if it may not show up Commonwealth-wide level. What is it for the individual locality? What are those priority pedestrian bicyclist corridors? And we'll show you information related to that. And then we want to show you examples of crash tree tools. What these tools allow you to do is to make your own combinations of factors and see, providing you with a tool that will allow you to, even in the years ahead, being able to do your own analyses. You know, we're not going to be here forever, and we want to furnish you with something, a takeaway beyond the report that you'll be able to use to analyze your crashes and be able to identify combinations of factors that contribute to your crashes in your locality. So this is through a federal highway administration effort that VHB was able to support the development of such a tool, and we'll show you a demo, and you will be able to walk away coming out of this project with your locality specific spreadsheet. So we'll demonstrate that in a few moments. And we'll talk about next steps, which as a little nugget, we're trying to complete a report by the end of August for your review, so that when we meet again in the fall, we can discuss your comments related to the report, and then wrap up this task. And then we'll go into a discussion and Q&A. All right, so last time we showed you a variety of exhibits, and that included the high injury network. If you recall, we showed you information related to the small percentage of streets within your locality, and that represented majority of your fatal and serious injury crashes, right? So that was one piece of information we provided. Another piece of information was the Health Opportunity Index to show a correlation between crashes and areas that have a need to improve health outcomes, and there is a correlation with that. I think based on, we were informed that there weren't any additional comments related to the exhibits, so those are going to be part of the final report. But if you do have additional comments related to those exhibits, we'll certainly can talk to you offline about those and see if there are any things that you want us to modify related to those exhibits. But for the last couple of months, we focused on the emphasis areas and refining them and see how they really resonate with the various localities. In consultation with VDOT, with Stephen Reed and Ryan, we took a dive here into taking a look at the relationship between emphasis areas. So what you see here on the slide, do you see the rainbow slide? Okay, so what this shows is a 8x8 matrix, a two-dimensional matrix to show the correlation between the different emphasis areas that are in the state Strategic Highway Safety Plan, SHSP, and how they relate to each other. And this data is for the region as a whole, so the 9 localities. And to read this chart, basically you're reading vertically. And so let's say for impaired driving, what percentage of the impaired driving fatal and serious injury crashes, so Ks and As, if you're familiar with the crash form, what percentage of those crashes also exhibit the factor that you see on the left? So for example, impaired driving in the column on the left, almost half of impaired driving crashes also involve roadway departure. So if we're trying to ultimately recommend or identify countermeasures or strategies that are relevant for the region, there are opportunities in which when we write out such strategies and actions that they call out both. There's a relationship between these factors, and it behooves us to mobilize resources that address roadway departure. So oftentimes that's going to be your engineers dealing with roadway departure, but then impaired driving, you also have the participation of law enforcement and education, the folks at DMV, right? So there needs to be a partnership in how we identify strategies and actions. So that's the beauty of this type of matrix, is to show the relationship between the factors. And this is nothing new. Stephen and Brian can go on and talk about how similar exhibits have been developed at the state level, and other jurisdictions across the country do similar things. So I think as a takeaway, you can see that, if you allow me just briefly for each of the columns, with impaired driving, you can see that roadway departure is associated with impaired driving, and same with to a slightly lesser degree, occupant protection. So people are driving drunk, they're also not wearing their seatbelt. A third of those impaired driving crashes have somebody not wearing a seatbelt. If we go to speed, you can see that basically your darker colors, your red and oranges, with speed, roadway departure, and also at intersections. Over a third of your speed-related crashes are at intersections. So that's something of note. With seatbelt use, occupant protection, the third column, half of them involve roadway departure, and then over a quarter is related to impaired driving and speed. So you can sort of see there's multiple overlaps, and you also wouldn't expect these columns to add up to 100%, because you might ask the question, are these mutually exclusive? They're not. You can have multiple factors in a single crash. So don't try to add these numbers to 100%. With roadway departure column, again, impaired driving, speed, and occupant protection are key factors in there. And the intersections, notably, these percentages are smaller, but interestingly enough, young drivers are involved in 18% of intersection crashes. That's an interesting finding there, and there may be a need to provide improved training related to young or novice drivers, and how they navigate through intersections. Conversely, you look at young drivers themselves, and the third to last column, you sort of see the inverse there. Like over almost half of your young driver crashes are at intersections. And then bicyclists, I think this is not surprising to all of you. Just the conflict points at intersections, to have almost 2/3 of your bicycle crashes at intersections. That's an important finding there. And then pedestrians, similarly, over a third are at intersections, and then and just under a third involve an impairment. So bottom line is that this table allows us to refine how we want to focus our strategies, so that we're not just coming to a whole laundry list of strategies. The strategies should try in a way balance the needs of the particular emphasis area and see how it relates to other emphasis areas. Do note there's a bullet underneath. We did exclude the interstates, because those are really high speed corridors. We're trying, VDOT covers that well with their strategic highway safety plan. So we're just trying to focus the analysis for the non-interstates and the non-divided control access roadways. Any questions about this table?
I had a quick question. This is Barb.
Yes, Barb.
How did you decide when to highlight the intersection between the column and the road?
Oh, sure. No, this is honestly using Excel, just how it relates to the other percentages within that column. So if you look at the color gradient, it's related to the numbers in that column. So if you look at intersections, right, the percentages aren't that high compared to the other columns, right? 18% was your highest. but 18% is higher than the other numbers within that column. So that's how they're arranged.
Yeah, I was just, we've got the young drivers in the speed column at 22. But I guess what you're saying is when you have speed related accidents, roadway departure and speed are really the largest group
Mhm.
of intersection.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
And ultimately, we're trying to produce this table for each of the localities. So this is for a region as a whole. We just don't have time to go through all 9. So
Yeah.
I think that way, because we can certainly see that with the city of Richmond, your bicyclists and pedestrians are going to show up much more compared to Charles City. So
Right.
yeah, so we're trying to make this document useful for each locality. But this is a preview of what you're going to see is this type of color gradient matrix.
Okay, thank you.
Huh? Wasn't sure if Stephen, I see your box is yellow. I wasn't sure if Stephen you were chiming in or not.
No, that's okay. Carry on. You're doing great.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. All right. So then this table here takes a look at our data in a different manner. And this is not by emphasis area. It is by emphasis area in terms of the columns. But what portion of the roadway network are these crashes located on? So are they on the primary roadway network, the secondary roadway network, or an other roadway class? So we're going to do this for all the localities as well. You can see that impaired driving, it's pretty balanced between all 3 roadway types. I'm not going to go through everything here, but you can see, let's say, roadway departure, a larger percentage is on the secondary roadway system. The bicyclists are mostly on the other, essentially your local roadway network when it comes down to it, and definitely a stronger focus on Richmond and its local roads, which are being classified as other. Similarly with the pedestrians. So this just helps at a glance, helps to pinpoint maybe where you want to focus your resources. So that you're not choosing every single roadway network. Similarly, we showed you that high injury network right last time with those maps, those showing those key corridors where your crash is located. And this table is just another way of looking at the information so that graphically you have your high injury network, and then from a classification standpoint, you can see which types of roads your crashes are occurring more on than others. All right, now we're really going to go deep here. This is overlapping 3 factors, trying to show the possibilities of what we can also do with the data here. This is a sample of a triple Venn diagram, just relating 3 emphasis areas together. So in this case, I chose 3 behavioral ones, so impaired driving, speed, and occupant protection. And seeing in the universe of the over 3,200 crashes over the 5-year period in the Richmond region, what percentage had the particular factor. So right off the bat, 55% of the crashes didn't exhibit or didn't have any of these 3 factors recorded, or was not reported. All right, so then basically you have the remaining 45% of crashes within these bubbles. If you're in the middle, the 65, 2% of your region's crashes over the 5-year period have all 3 factors, because all 3 circles overlap here, right? Or ovals. So this is just a way to show how the different factors overlap, and we certainly can produce additional Venn diagrams that show that overlap. This one doesn't really have has a standout type of outcome. It seemed pretty balanced. You have 10 or 11% that only exhibit that particular factor, and then you have 3 to 4% that have at least 2, and then 2% in the middle. So perhaps it could have chosen a better Venn diagram to really show you something that really stood out. But in the end, this comes to show that there is a relationship between these 3 factors. to some degree. If you want to look at the figure without the 55% that didn't have any factors, think of essentially just double the percentage of what you see in these bubbles, and you get a sense of those crashes that have any of these three factors. 4% of those behavior related crashes have all three. That's another way to look at this diagram. If we did look at these an additional 55% that didn't have any of these factors. So any questions about this triple Venn diagram? Or if Stephen or Ryan, if there's anything you'd like to chime in on.
No, this is really one of the best that we've been able to think through for outreach for some of the behavioral areas, so that we kind of know what there are. Like, you might want to overlay some of the key ones here with like a young driver to see if there's any issues there even, or slice the data even more and say, okay, what age group should we target within each of these major areas? So if you have more data, you can kind of tailor your outreach and education campaigns as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks, Stephen. Okay. So again, those exhibits that we just showed you are going to be items that you'll see in the plan. We're trying to customize it for each of the localities as well. The other thing we wanted to cover here is just a refinement of the pedestrian safety action plan corridors that we presented last time. And we wanted to take a look at it differently to show how corridors in the region relate to the corridor to the region as a whole. So not just comparing against the statewide average, because as you can imagine, Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, downtown Richmond, they definitely carry a lot of the bicyclist and pedestrian traffic, right? So we asked ourselves, okay, how can we relate the data so it really resonates within just the region internally, and then for the locality by itself. All right, so this is an example map. We have maps for each of the 9, but we chose this one. It says Henrico in the bottom corner because it is focused on Henrico, but you can actually see all 9 on the map. Granted, there's some external corridors that off this map, but anyway, I digress. What you see here is that those corridors that are in blue, all right, those corridors are in the top percentiles of pedestrian and bicyclist crashes compared to the region as a whole. So it's not surprising to you that a lot of the pedestrian bicyclist activity is in Richmond, hence there are blue lines throughout the city, right? Then you have those corridors in red, which are the top percentiles for the specific locality. So last time, if you recall, we didn't really have any lines in Chesterfield, but what this map shows is that for Chesterfield, if you just look at Chesterfield by itself, the red lines show these are the corridors that have the higher pedestrian / bicyclist crash frequency. All right, and then you're asking what are those yellow ones? So those yellow / orange lines fall on both lists. So they fall regionally. They show up regionally and they show up locally. So we have these maps developed for each of the 9. If we felt, and based on your comments, yeah, we certainly agree with you that these maps would resonate a bit more because then you can really see which corridors show up for your locality, rather than just seeing bike ped corridors being dominated by the city of Richmond. Any questions about this exhibit?
No, this is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's really going to be useful information for us.
Absolutely, yeah, and you can see that let's say in the northwest corner here of Chesterfield, right? You see these little red stubs, right? Ideal in the end, we can present these maps, but at the same time, we want to make the information a bit more digestible. I mean, it's great, it's graphically pleasing, sure, but it behooves us to actually identify corridors. So let's say the road over here, right? We have a bunch of disjointed red segments. It's easier for us just to identify the corridor as a whole, because I don't think the general public wants to see, okay, mile 2 to mile 4, mile 7 to mile 8. It's easier for them to digest, okay, this entire corridor is a priority corridor for Chesterfield County. And that's what we'll be doing. We'll be enumerating lists similar to what you saw with the high injury network last time. We basically identify complete routes so that it just makes it easier to digest for public consumption.
For us, it's going to be useful to see those segments, you know, because of origin, destination, and, you know, finding sections where we can accomplish right-sized project, whether it's pedestrian crossing and some sidewalk or whatever. So I like both approaches, you know, talking about the corridor in general, but then for us to be able to kind of phase improvements down the road, we're going to be, you know, looking at the orange stuff and then looking at the red stuff.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And what this map also shows, and we also purposely chose this Henrico map too, is it actually encourages cooperation between localities. You know, we can see, you know, corridors going across borders, right? The investment doesn't, if we're working regionally, right, hopefully the investment doesn't just end at the borderline, right? So work with jurisdictions working together, hopefully there's a continuous improvement, you know, that spans across a county boundary.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we did just get a project funded on Route 60 that extends into the city to improve pedestrian access around Stonebridge and Spring Rock. So it'll cross over Chippenham. Yep.
Any other questions or comments about the updated PSAP analysis?
Eric, this is Dirana. Yes, I think this is very helpful information and will really be useful in really looking at, you know, regional aspects of, you know, potential projects, as well as kind of like what Barb said in regard to technical strategies for our respective departments to really project size and make projects that can begin to still meet the same goal while maybe still being, you know, a little bit smaller in size. So this is great.
Great. You know, thanks for the comments there. All right.
And this is Stephen from VDOT. Just a full comment on this. So we are updating the statewide PSAP analysis that will be hopefully used for smart scale screening on the next round. But this study is also another study that can be referenced if it doesn't make the statewide list. So the beauty of having this at the regional level and jurisdiction level is that you've got another study to reference if you don't make the statewide list, so to speak. So that's a good thing. And just a reminder, and we'll probably put this in the appendix, are some of the graphics that show all the factors that go into PSAP. It's in our ArcGIS Online link to the document. But you know, to let you know that these corridors are really getting to where there's a propensity to walk because of the HOI information and some of the census data, and also some of the risks to walking. So we have speed and the number of lanes that they need to cross. You know, there's transit provided. There's other factors that are in here. So it really does show you, you know, even if there aren't crashes, this is where we need to be addressing providing those opportunities to walk along and get across these roads, streets. So we'll probably provide that information so it's in one spot, in an appendix.
All right. We'll make sure to add that, Stephen. Okay. So now we're going to show you this crash tree tool, which ultimately will furnish you at the conclusion, if not close to the conclusion of the project. These are screenshots, but I'm actually going to go into the tool. I'm going to share my Excel file in a moment. But this is a tool that you can actually download for free as a blank template at Federal Highways Local Road Safety Plan Do-It-Yourself website. So that's the address there. And there's the word systemic tools close to the bottom of that page. If you mouse over that word, there's a link for you to download the tool directly. And what this tool does, it allows you to import a formatted data set, and you're able to identify the various fields that you want to be included as part of your automated analysis. And then you can choose your time frame, and then the various fields that you want included as part of this crash tree. And for those who aren't familiar with these crash trees, what a crash tree does, it allows you to, similar to what you saw with the Venn diagrams earlier, be able to look at the relationship of various factors. So starting with a universe of crashes, what percentage of crashes exhibit a particular factor. So if there are 3 sub-factors, what percentage of crashes are located in each. And then you move to a next level of crashes or next level of factor and see what percentage of those factors are underneath a particular category. So I'll show you an example right now. And if you can get unwieldy, you can see from the screenshot here, just from 2 factors, what I chose here were roadway class. So you have the other primary, secondary, and other. And then after that, I chose facility type, and it goes into at least 5 facility types. So if you keep on choosing different factors, I mean, this tree will grow extremely large. And then it becomes really hard to read and not really as user-friendly. But the idea is that there is an automated tool out there that allows you to create it, and then you'll be able to take a look at the data on your own in the years ahead to see, oh yeah, this combination of factors have the highest percentage of crashes. So what you see here in the screenshot is the tool highlights the yellow boxes, which ultimately show you the trajectory, if you will, of the highest percentage of crashes. But sometimes sometimes the yellow box may not be the most indicative element for your analysis. So let's say you're trying to do impaired driving crashes, and then you have impaired driving, yes or no. But then if your no column is your highest percentages, that's not what you're looking for. You're interested in impaired driving crashes. So your focus is to focus on the yes side of the tree, if you will. So just bring those caveats into the discussion here. And I'm gonna now jump to the tree. Bear with me for a second. Just need to move it on to a different monitor. At any moment, you should be able to see the input tab with the white boxes. Do you guys see that on your screen? All right.
You're good.
Okay. So this tab, this spreadsheet does come with instructions. That's okay in the instruction tab. So there's always an opportunity for a new user to read the instructions and see how this tool works. So you're not just getting a black box and not knowing what you're doing here. The data tab is where you import your data, and what we've done, we've taken VDOT's data specifically for the region as a whole. So that's why I saved it as RRTPO. It's called the sample here. but we're able to import the data from a VDOT system so that we have all the necessary columns and fields that we want. And then there's a configuration tab that allows you to choose the fields that you want to analyze as part of the tree. So if there are 90 columns, you're not going to use all 90. You're going to choose the columns that are most of interest to you, and you can populate it into this configuration tool so that you know what fields you're going to be working with. And as you can see, right, this variable name, sometimes the variable name is not the most glamorous or most indicative of what that field is, a variable is all about. So this tool allows you to provide an alternate name for the field so that it's easier to understand what you're looking at. And then you go, once that configuration is set up, you can go to the input tab to enter the years of analysis that you want to analyze. I mean, the data that we imported into this tool is from 16 to 20, but if I wanted to analyze 17 through 19, I can do that. And then I can change the filters to fields that are of interest here. But for default, I'm just use the same ones that I showed you in the sample on the slide. So road class, the primary, secondary, other, and then the facility type, which like two-way, divided, one-way, etc. So then with a simple click of a button, it actually generates a tree. And as you can see, I'm going to zoom out. It's you know, you can see those various branches that you saw in the slide deck. So from 17 to 19, there were just over 2,000. In this case, we actually imported fatal serious injury crashes, so the KA crashes. And then we can see that a third of the crashes over a 3-year period were on your primary roadway network, another 30% on your secondary, and then the remainder on other. Because other had the highest percentage, that's why it's highlighted as yellow. It's an automated process to take the highest percentage. And then the next level, which was the facility type, you can see the two-way non-divided, the divided, divided partial control, one-way, and then transition. So you see for the primary network, over half the crashes were on the divided, no control of access type of roadway. For your secondary network, for 17 to 19, almost all, like 89%, were on your two-way non-divided roadways. And then for your other roadways, it's a more balance between the two-way non-divided 37% and then divided no control of access at 36%. Don't worry about the percentages like for the sample, but the idea here is just to give you an idea that this tool can automate your processes so that you don't have to manually do pivot tables. You know, another way to do this analysis is to go into Excel and conduct pivot table analyses until, you know, for hours on end. This really helps you save the time, automates the process so that you can quickly see the trees and the branches of crashes that you need to follow, so that you can ultimately, so in this case for primary crashes on divided roadway facilities, that's maybe that focus. That's where you can focus your resources on. So we're trying to produce, so we have these Excel files prepared for each of the 9 localities, and then that's something that you'll be able to play with. So we have the 5 years of data pre-populated from 2016 to 2020, and yeah, each locality will be able to use it. We will, in the final report, include trees for the region, and then possibly for the appendices, show a couple relevant trees for localities. We can't really show every tree because that's the volume will be huge if we did that, and you can see that just from the graphics alone, it gets really wide. Stephen, is there anything you want to add about these?
No, that's good.
Any
I think you have
questions?
some examples in your slide deck as well, right?
Yes, that's right. Any questions about this Excel tool before I just go back to the slide deck? All right, I will go back to the slide deck here. I have to do everything for a second. Just start the slideshow again. Okay, here we go. You should be able to see now orange boxes.
Yep, you're good.
All right. So this is an example. I mean, ultimately, we're not just going to provide PDFs of an Excel file, right, in the report. We're going to at least convert those crash trees into something more graphically pleasing. This is just PowerPoint. Of course, we have graphic artists who could make it even fancier than this, but this is an example of the fatal and serious injury crashes for the 5-year period. So all 3,224 of them, and which roadway, which facilities these crashes were located on. So a third of the crashes occurred on the primary system, and over a third were on the other, and then the remainder were on the secondary. When we look at the primary system specifically, we see that similar to what you saw for the 3-year sample that I showed you in the tool, for the 5-year period, we see that for the primary system, divided no access control represents over half for KA crashes on the primary system. On the secondary system, most of your crashes are on the two-way non-divided facility type, and then for the remaining mileage on the other system, it's a balance between your two-way non-divided and your divided no access control. So at a regional level, this helps the region identify, within the primary, secondary, and other systems where safety dollars could focus on from a facility type perspective. And then this is an example of we chose pedestrian crashes, 399 of them, fatal and serious injury pedestrian crashes over a 5-year period, 2016-2020. And we see that the majority of them are actually on the other system. As I indicated earlier, because of the local network in Richmond, definitely drives this type of data. So when we look at the other system, with over half the pedestrian crashes, the plurality or the large proportion are during daylight hours at 44%. And then you still have a significant portion of them in darkness, but lighted conditions around 30%, and in darkness not lighted 18%. But for pedestrian crashes, over on the primary system, so 32% of your pedestrian crashes in the primary system, the largest proportion of those pedestrian crashes are actually in darkness, not lighted conditions. So almost 3/4 of your primary system pedestrian crashes are in dark condition, not lighted conditions. So, it shows the difference between, lighting would be a much, or reflectivity or conspicuity is more important for the primary system, right? But then for the other system, it's not as big of a factor, if you will. So this type of tree just comes to show, this is just an example to show you how the priorities change based on how you break down the tree. So yeah, this is an export from the automated tool that we showed you earlier. Just easier to read than Excel output. So we'll be developing trees like this for the final report, more so for the regional level, but we'll highlight 1 or 2 trees that are notably significant for the localities as part of the appendix. But then, with the automated tool, each locality will be able to generate their trees whenever they like, because you'll have the tool in your hands and go beyond the analysis that we will have started for you. Any questions about these trees? If none, for the remaining time, we can talk about next steps here. Like I said, we're going to provide you with that crash tree tool, so you can play around with that. And then our big next step is to document the final report over the next month. So by the end of August, we're trying to synthesize everything that we've performed for you over the course of this project, and include the various exhibits, provide a narrative to explain what this regional plan is all about, how it ties in to statewide efforts as well. We know we have the strategic highway safety plan for the state. How did that influence, or how did that inform the development of this plan? Of course, mentions of Vision Zero, because that's the plan that we're calling it here, and references to safe system approach, things that the public will need to understand of why this approach was taken in the first place, right? And then the exhibits that we're going to include the high injury network maps that we presented 2 months ago, as well as the health opportunity index results that we also presented previously. The regional crash trees, like I just mentioned, highlights of predominant crash factors in each locality. So that ties into some of the Venn diagrams and the crash trees that we presented earlier. And then provide linkages to VDOT tools and resources. So not only are we mentioning the crash tool developed by the feds, but Stephen's office, they've been producing new tools and resources, and we want to make sure we highlight that in this plan so that you'll be able to touch upon those tools. And Stephen, do you want to elaborate on any of the things?
Yeah, and I think I want to start to develop the regional maps, with the MPOs, DPOs that we work with over time, so that I'm hoping that there'll be the ability for us to publish like the pedestrian maps or the high injury networks, etc., on ArcGIS online, so that those layers are available, with the data that's in them for anyone to grab and use, and look at the details in more specifics as you need to within your jurisdiction or for the region. So hopefully we'll be able to get those published as well after we get this wrapped up here with our GIS folks.
So yeah, the plan news won't be static. You'll have access to tools to look at more recent data in the years ahead. This is providing that initial framework to identify those factors and issues that are relevant, that are important to this region, and then this will also help to inform you of particular potential strategies and actions that you may want to consider. Reference things in the SHSP. I think that's where we definitely encourage the region to look at the state plan and see that, yeah, our data tells us this state plan has this particular strategy that addresses that. Let's apply for funding, or submit the smart scale request, submit the HSIP request, the highway safety grants for DMV. This data will help you, provide you with that background of information to bolster your grant applications. Any questions about the next steps or the final report?
So Eric, you said that, I'm just thinking ahead to the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be, will there be a draft to the final report that this group should review, or are we just going to review the final that you come up with at the end of August?
No, that's a great question. Stephen, correct me if I'm wrong. We're trying to develop this draft here so that at the end of August, that's where the group will have the chance to read it through, and then we'll make adjustments after that, and we'll have another working session, to meet with you online like this again, and discuss your comments. So because we recognize that only some of the localities are on the phone right now, or on this call right now. I'm not sure, I don't think I've seen all 9 at once.
Yeah, this is the working group, so it would be presented to the full TAC, I would presume, after it leaves, like after this group, after it leaves us.
Hmm.
So, and I don't know, did Chet ever join us?
Yeah, he's here.
I'm here.
Hey, Chet, so what are some of the like next steps for, as we approach kind of looking towards the finish line?
Yeah, I mean, I think a draft back with the working group makes a lot of sense, so that it's satisfied with the content and the direction that the plan is proposing, and then we definitely want to get it in front of the TAC for review, and I'm not sure what the action is that we'd like to take, that the policy board should consider, whether it's adoption of a plan or acceptance of a plan, or I mean, it's wording more than anything. But I think we definitely want to move in that direction where it ends up at the policy board with a TAC recommendation. I think
Yeah, I was looking. Sorry,
wise,
Chet.
we don't want to do it until I think we want to get the long range plan through the process first. I think,
And that's
TAC,
October, right?
Right. So if TAC wanted to consider it maybe in October, that would be good timing, if we're able to get it through to that point.
And I was trying to look through the work plan to kind of see exactly what we say in there, and that may help us figure how we want the approval. Let's see if I can find it. Chet, did you give the? I know I saw the. Let me see. Maybe I'll find it. I don't see it. I was looking in the work plan status report that you gave for upcoming meeting, and to see if I could see just what we had in the work plan on Vision Zero. So, I mean, Chatfield's given us a little bit more information. So we have, and so the question becomes, do we want to have you all send the draft to us through Plan RVA to the working group, and then we set up a time in September to have our comments to you all and meet again, and then that'll give them time from the September meeting or we can not meet and just have a deadline to have our comments in, and then when we meet, the incorporation of those comments could be presented in September, and then that way we could then move towards the October. Probably try to get it on like the October TAC meeting.
Yeah, that would be the 12th.
So Eric, when you all thinking that you would have the time in August? Would it be like mid-August, late August?
We're planning to finish this draft by the end of the month, so that throughout September, we can get your comments. We can meet virtually again. We do have, we are tasked to meet with you a third time. To discuss with you the comments, and then we'll make final adjustments and then have that ready for you, so that your meeting on October 12th, you'll be able to present the highlights to the TAC and see what feedback they have.
Okay. Okay, well, I think that sounds like a plan. I don't know if we would try to just work offline on like the exact dates and how so it sounds like we would, whenever you all are finished, you would send it to Chad and then he could distribute it to us. And then if we're saying September, I don't know, like, do we want to say have it back to you all like by like September 10th? Is that too late, or are you looking for, because I don't know exactly when you may get it out. You said the end of the month, but I don't know if you're, I know we're at the end of July. So I'm kind of, I don't know if you're talking about August or like you're gonna have it in 3 days, or you mean the end of August?
End of August. So August 31. But I mean, ultimately, your TAC needs its materials. I think it's working backwards from the 12th. When do they need stuff for their agenda? So it's working backwards from that, and then also giving you enough time to review and enough time for us to make any adjustments. So when does the TAC need to have everything in by? For
It'd be great to have materials ready for the agenda packet by Friday the 1st of October.
Okay.
Monday the 4th, probably at the latest.
So okay, if we give you the plan by the 27th of August, and then get comments by the 10th, September 10th, then we use the remainder of September to fine tune it and work with you, get it all done by the end of September, and then you can send it off to the TAC.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. And then just to everyone on the meeting, just, we'll get that, and just remember we'll have to get it through everybody that we want to have, take a look at it. And provide the comments by the 10th. That will be helpful. So that we can definitely have a useful tool that everybody can use.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So thank you so much, Eric, for presenting that information. I am going to get my agenda back up here. So we talked about the next steps there. So we're on to item number 6, which are our work group member comments. Do any of our work group members have any comments? Hearing none. We just talked about the next meeting. So we know that we're having the comments in by September the 10th. So we're going to be looking to set up a meeting. So let's see. I guess you would want some time to at least incorporate any comments. So do we want to, and then we're still closed in by the October 1st date. Let me get a calendar. October, so 10th. So either like the week of September 20th through the, I guess we can have it as late as I guess the week of the 20th might be the best time to maybe consider our next meeting. I haven't looked at my calendar, and I probably need to, because maybe full with stuff. Let's see here. September.
Eric, what works best with you if you're getting comments by the 10th? Would you rather meet with the work group earlier in September or towards the end of that period?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. Like if you're sticking with Thursdays, and the 16th would be a good time. It gives us time to digest the comments from the group, and then on Thursday we can just go through any high level or key ones that we needed more clarification on. That we can focus the final 2 weeks on making it good.
Hold on. What is this?
So I don't know if Thursday, September 16th is something that's reasonable for this group, or is that something that's that throws you guys off of your typical Thursday scheduling.
I can only do 10 to 12 on that day. So it would have to be in between then.
That works for the Plan RVA calendar. Other folks, Barb, Sharon?
We'll just send the invite to him. So what we want to do, like 10 o'clock on the 16th or 11 o'clock? I don't know, whichever one.
We could set it up for 10.
Okay, well, good. It sounds like we got everything resolved for the next meeting. All right, if there's no further questions or comments, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.